you bring up Shedeur Sanders, and I know you've addressed this on BrownsFilmBreak.com. There's a dilemma with Shedeur Sanders. You've heard Deion say multiple times there are teams he will not let Shedeur play for. We don't know if, in fact, the Browns are one of them. They may be. What do the Browns do if Deion says Shedeur's not going there?
It's a great question. I mean, in theory, you'd like to say he's going to get drafted here. He's going to have to come here and play. And while that's possibly true, I do think you run into a world of like, you know, agents not preferring to work with you, or it could be any number of nasty like ramifications of something like that. I mean, we've seen it before. We saw the Chargers obviously make the deal for Eli Manning and Phillip Rivers, but on the other end of that deal was Phillip Rivers, so you didn't necessarily hate taking that back and getting an additional first the next year if you liked Phillip Rivers enough. This is a unique situation. We really haven't seen it replicate all too often. Like I said, Phillip Rivers was one of them. Um, probably John Elway,
Mm-hmm.
also one of them way back in the early '80s. There's not a ton of this. I don't know. I mean, I think that there should be a chance for them to sit down and iron out details of this. If this is a place they want to be, if this is a move they want to make, I think we probably take this a little bit more serious in early March when the combine has happened. And I know the Browns coaching staff is going to be dialed into this Shrine Bowl where Fedor is going to be in next weekend with down in Dallas. So I don't know yet. I think that on the surface with the player empowerment stuff we've seen, I don't know that it'd be a good decision. But then you have to weigh, what compensation comes in return. Are you if he wants to go to New York and that's the pick behind you, what are you getting out of that as the Browns to make sure that that happens? I'm not sure. And is it also, hey, Shador only wants to go to New York, or are they open to the Raiders coming up at 8, and then that creates a bunch of competition for like, hey, not just you're not just moving with one team because he only wants to go to New York or whatever. That's where the Browns can get into more of a bidding war and maybe live in a more comfortable place with feeling inclined to make that sort of trade. So I think it's a really tricky dilemma, but I think also acting like on the surface draft him and he's got to show up here and play is a dangerous place for if a guy holds out or it gets really weird and then you've wasted a pick that you needed a player to come in and be really good for you and you could have maybe had somebody else, maybe Abdul Carter from Penn State or something like that. So this is the low surface bubbling plot line that I think is interesting, and not just for Shedeur, it's also Travis Hunter, who is a guy that Dion views as a son of his as well. That could also get weird if he just is anti-Cleveland on everything. We will definitely we'll see. The Tennessee situation is a little different because it's historic for your son or Travis to go number one, and that's like a thing that you would just kind of tolerate to be number one pick in the draft. Whereas the second pick, you can start to maybe strong arm somebody. I don't know. I'm not predicting anything here, but I think there have been some sort of rumblings that maybe he doesn't want his son as a quarterback here to end up in Cleveland, and that would be a bummer. If the Browns loved him as a player prospect and trying to draft him, that would be a big bummer.